fellow South Africans. I'm addressing you this evening.
All your years of paying tax, you helped us overcome our darkest hour. You, along with every other loyal taxpayer, helped build this nation. Thank you for every life you saved and for every risk you braved, for giving our future generation a healthy start. When you saw many of our vulnerable communities, you provided for them. When you saw our healthcare workers on the front lines battling COVID, you rose to the occasion and gave them the tools to save lives. Without your tax compliance, we wouldn't be able to fight a good fight. Thank you for contributing to the important services our vulnerable communities rely on every day. To all taxpayers and traders, continue to pay your tax because it matters to millions of South Africans who depend on it. Your tax matters.
Good evening to all of you in attendance. My name is Benjamin de Klerk, and I would like to formally invite you and greet you this evening and welcome you to the session. Thank you also for setting aside some of your personal time to attend the session. It is truly, truly appreciated. To introduce our webinar, we would like to invite Ms. Dipuo Mbalazi to the screen to open the session for us. But let me just give you a brief history of Ms. Mbalazi. She joined SARS in 2008, and over the years she has served the organization in different capacities and in different departments. And some of these are the Office of the Commissioner, Stakeholder Management and Integrity, and currently as a cluster chairperson for the SMTT Government and Tax Practitioner Estates and Tax Exempt Institution segments. Ms. Mbalazi, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Program Director. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SARS Registered Representative webinar with a specific focus to its applicability to the tax practitioners. SARS has 9 strategic objectives that inform and guide our work. Today, we're specifically focusing on the following strategic objectives. 1, we endeavor to provide clarity and certainty for taxpayers and traders of their obligations, to make it easy for taxpayers and traders to comply with their obligations, to detect taxpayers and traders who do not comply and make non-compliance hard and costly, and work with and through stakeholders to improve the tax ecosystem. This webinar's objective is primarily to help provide the necessary clarity and certainty for taxpayers and traders of their obligation. And we're hoping that by the end of this session, some clarity and certainty will be provided. We organized this seminar to help address specific problem areas we've been observing. We noticed an increase in traffic at our contact centers and branch offices of queries pertaining to correction of registered representative details, despite this functionality being available on the digital channels. We thought some clarity was required on this matter, and this webinar seeks to explain and make practitioners and taxpayers aware of the registered representative process and to discuss some of the common problems that they may have experienced. The content has been designed from the perspective of tax practitioners and the assistance they need to render service to their clients. However, we believe that if all taxpayers will be joining us today, we believe that they will all benefit from understanding the content as well as the process to be followed. So the webinar tonight will be covering the following areas. Firstly, who is a registered representative? Who is precluded from being a registered representative? How does one appoint a registered representative? And how does one make correct use of the different service channels to activate the registered representative? My colleagues in the panel today will help us clarify all of these questions. I hope you'll enjoy the session. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Ms. Mbalazi, for the introduction and for setting the scene. Now, the session will take the following form. There will be a presentation that will be conducted by Mr. Martin Naidu. After the presentation, we will then have a question and answer session, which will be hosted by 3 panel members, and they will attempt to answer some of the questions that you have posed to us. The questions could either be posted directly onto the chat, and we have some colleagues that will address those questions, or it could be emailed to us at the following email address. It is rrquestions, that is again rrquestions@sars.gov.za. Please note, this email will only be active during this session of the webinar, and we therefore appeal to you not to send any emails to this address after the webinar. When questions are being posted, please keep to the topic and do not list any personal information of clients that you might be representing. At the end of the webinar, we would appreciate your sincere comments on how you experienced the webinar, and please do not leave the session without completing the survey. Please also note that a recording of this session will be posted on the SARS YouTube channel, and the link will also be posted on the SARS website. We would now like to invite Mr. Martin Naidu to the screen to do the presentation for us. But before he commences, let me provide you with a short biography of Mr. Naidu. Mr. Naidu holds a diploma in information and technology from Oval International Technical College. He started his career at SARS in 2007 as a contact center agent dealing with income tax related queries. Because of his zest for learning, he received training on income tax, value-added tax, and pay-as-you-earn. In addition, he is a self-taught e-filing technical expert. In 2010, he joined the branch operations engagement, where he is responsible for tax education, outreach, and campaigns. His role within the taxpayer education team entails giving tax education presentations to individuals, tax practitioners like yourselves, government departments, and small businesses. He also worked on developing training material for SARS. Mr. Naidu, you have our undivided attention.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Martin Naidu, and I will be taking you through the activation of a registered representatives. To give effect to our mandate, our strategic intent is to develop and administer a tax and customs systems of voluntary compliance, and where appropriate, enforce responsibility and decisively. Our vision is to build a smart, modern SARS with unquestionable integrity that is trusted and admired by all. For effective administration of tax laws, SARS has introduced the registered representative. Due to an influx of queries relating to the interpretation and activation of a registered representative, it is important for tax practitioners to be familiar with the definition of a registered representative and how to assist your clients to activate such individuals using e-filing. Okay, so if we look at legislation pertaining to a representative taxpayer, okay, and would in line with the Tax Administrative Act, a representative taxpayer is a person that's liable or ensures the tax obligations are being adhered to in the form of paying taxes, submission of returns, and they also referred to in terms of the 4th schedule of the Income Tax Act and Section 46 of the VAT Act. Okay, so a representative taxpayer would be appointed by an entity. Once that entity appoints a representative, he or she needs to inform SARS of the amendment. So they can come through to SARS within 21 days and advise SARS that they are newly appointed and they need to update their details and link themselves as a registered representative. Okay, so the registered taxpayer, once that is done, he or she will be held liable for any debts owed or any returns outstanding for this. Okay. If we need to disclose any information, we can do so appointed to the duly authorized representative. So we can only give information to the person that we have linked on our SARS system as the registered representative or the representative taxpayer. Public officers of companies, every company carrying on business in the Republic must have an individual representative appointed. This person must be a senior official of the company, for example, the director of the company. Now, when we're looking at who is a registered representative, okay, a registered representative can be in the following capacities depending on the entity that they're following. Example, they can be a treasurer, a curator if they've been appointed for an estate. If you're looking at a partnership, it'll be the main partner. If you're looking at a trust, it'll be the main trustee. Okay, so these are a representative that SARS will be able to allow to be linked or updated on the system against the entity that they represent. Okay. Now, SARS will only allow activation of a tax practitioner as a registered representative for individuals in the following circumstances. One, if you're the executor that's acting on behalf of a deceased estate or insolvent estate, that means you've been appointed as the executor. Okay, or if you're a parent acting on behalf of a minor, if you've been appointed as the administrator acting on behalf of a legal incapacitated individual, if you've been appointed as an administrator acting on behalf of an individual in extended absence, okay, or in a case whereby you are the senior official in the company and appointed as a public officer by board resolution. Okay, so this is the only scenarios that we would allow a tax practitioner to be linked as a registered representative for a specific entity. Okay, so the following is steps that we put into place that you need to ensure that are done. Reason being is this will ensure that the process that follows after will make it easier for you to comply with SARS on behalf of your client. So if you acquire a new client, first thing, you need to ensure the representative of that entity is registered with SARS. Okay, so that means they're with SARS, the details are updated, okay, and we have them on our system. The next thing is to ensure that the entity details are up to date. So when we talk about up to date, we're talking about if, for example, a company, does the company have the appointed public officer on the CIPC records? Okay, so we need to make sure that entity details are updated. The next step, okay, is to update and link the registered representative to the entity. Okay, this can be done via our SARS online query system or via our branch office virtual appointments. I will do a short demonstration later on how you can do so using our electronic channels. So why we say update and link registered representative? One, firstly, we need to ensure that the registered representative details are updated. Example, we need to ensure that the cell phone number and the email address is updated. Secondly, we need to make sure that the entity that they represent have the corrected information on the SARS. Okay, once that is done, then we as SARS will link that representative to this entity. Okay, now another step that needs to be done is to ensure that the registered representative and the entity are merged. Now, the merge functionality can only be done via a branch office appointment. Okay, it can be virtually, or it can be whereby you have an appointment at a branch. What do we mean by merge? Now, on our system, if we had to take a registered representative's ID number and input it onto our SARS system, we might come up with more than one profile or more than one portfolio. Okay, so ultimately what we would want is to have all profiles under one single registration. Okay, so you might have 3 that we need to put into one. Okay, that step is very important. It's something that you need to make note of. Also for the entity, now we also need to ensure that the entity is merged as well. Reason being is because if we had to put the company registration number, for example, on our system, okay, or any registration number, we might come up with multiple profiles. Why multiple profiles? Maybe we have a profile for income tax. Maybe we got one for VAT. Maybe we got one for PAYE. Okay, so we need to look at a single registration where we got all the tax type housed under one. So it's very important that these steps are followed and these checks are done. The reason being is that once these steps are done, you as a tax practitioner can now proceed to add this entity to your tax practitioner profile. Okay, so that means that you have less errors in activating these tax types on your e-filing profile for this entity. Once this process has been done, it's successful, it's activated, okay, you can then now proceed if you want to add additional tax types or register for additional tax types, like for VAT and PAYE. So yet again, take note of it. Ensure the registered representative is registered with SARS. Make sure the entity details are up to date. Make sure that the merge functionality is done. It's something that you can request on appointment. Please have a look and see if there's a merge. Okay. Now, this is the e-filing process. If you have a new client, and the reason why we put this, we want to show you a flow on how it generally affects and how you activate the tax types. Okay. Now, once you log on to e-filing, you're going to click on organizations on top, and then you're going to click register new on the left-hand side. Then you're going to go to select entity type. And if you click on the drop-down menu, it'll give you a list of entities that you can register for. Example, a company, an individual, a trust. Depending on what you select, you will need to complete the required information under the entity, capture entity details. Once that is done, you're going to click add taxpayer. You're going to get your standard groupings come up. So you've got to select which group you want that taxpayer to be under. You're going to click on continue, and then you're going to have what we have called is a taxpayer summary. Now, when you click on the taxpayer summary, here is where you're going to go on to the manage tax type. This is where you want to add your taxpayers, income tax number or VAT or PAYE numbers, so that you can now have access to it. Okay, so the process is once you click on manage tax types, okay, you will have the manage tax types screens that will come up. Now you'll have your tax types descriptions. You got the reference numbers as linked to that entity. It'll tell you the status, whether it's successfully active or not active, and then it'll give you actions. Now the actions will be depending on what you request. Either you want to request activations or you're requesting for a tax type to be transferred. Depending on what you select, you're going to click on the submit button. Once that is done, the tax type request summary is created. Okay, so you will click continue. Once you click continue, it'll take you to the next step. So you will generally see on your system an awaiting authorization functionality. Okay, so what is awaiting authorization function? It needs an additional step. It needs for the registered representative to now approve that transfer. Okay, now in order for them to do so, we refer to a tax type transfer process. Now, what is that? Is because you've updated the details of the registered representative, you merge, you've got cell phone number, you've got the email address. Okay, once you click on the request button or to activate, the authorization now lies on the registered representative to approve that. Okay, so they would need to approve. It's a step that needs to be done. Now, in order to approve, they will go on to www.sars.gov.za. They don't need to have an e-filing account to do so. They'll click on the manage tax type transfer, okay, and they will complete the online form. Now, when you're completing the online form, this following screen will come up when you click on the link. Okay, you need to select whether you are a South African citizen. It's either yes or no. If you say yes, the information that needs to be put in is that of the registered representative. Okay, that's the one or the entity that was or person that was linked onto the SARS system. So the details that will be put in is their ID number or their passport number. Okay. Where it says tax reference number, now this will be the tax reference number of the entity that they want to approve. For example, if it's a company, then they're going to put the company income tax number there. So it'll be the ID number of the representative and the income tax number of the organization or the personal income tax, whatever is being requested. Okay. Once that is done, they will click submit, and we need to issue out what we call a one-time PIN. Now it'll come up with an email address and it'll come up with a cell phone number. So provided the merge is done, provided that the cell phone number and the email address is correct, it'll reflect the email or cell phone number. They would either need to select one or the other. And what will happen is a one-time PIN, or we refer to an OTP, will be sent to that registered representative. Okay. Once you click on OK, they enter the one-time PIN. Then what will happen is you will get the electronic power of attorney come up. There's a power of attorney is for our record purposes, so it can track and see who authorizes the transfer of tax type between entities. Okay, so the registered representative is the one that will either authorize or decline. If they authorize or decline, then the requester will receive notification of it. Okay, so once you authorize, they click submit, and then what happens, you will get a notification, and you can then log on to e-filing, and the status will either say successfully active, or it'll give you a status to say it'll be activated in 24 hours. As long as this process is followed, then your activating or the transfer of your tax types will be done very smoothly. Okay. Now, how does one become a registered representative? Okay. One, you can use our SARS online query system, which is our preferred means of method. Okay, that's what you will find on our SARS website. Or alternatively, you can do a e-booking for a virtual appointment. Okay. Now, it's important that if you're either doing the online query system or utilizing the SARS e-booking system, that the correct documents for the representative is uploaded. Okay, so when you're talking about the registered representative, we would want one, a document to confirm that individual's appointment as a registered representative of the entity. Okay, the identity document of the individual to be registered. Okay, an image on the day that the request is submitted, clearly showing the individual in question holding up a copy of their ID and a note that reads update my details, and also a copy of your proof of a residential address. Okay, so that's one set of documents that we will require for the registered representative. For the entity now, so the entity that they're representing, we would want, in a case of a company, we will want a copy of the registration certificate and a notice of incorporation. If it's a trust, then a trust deed together with the minutes of the meeting, specifying who is authorized to act on behalf of the trust. In a partnership or joint venture, okay, we will want the agreement of the partnership or the joint venture itself, or a copy of the identity document of the taxpayer in case of an individual. Now, it's important to ensure that the registration process is done smoothly, that these documentations are uploaded when requested. Now, when you upload these documentations to SARS, it will take 21 days, within 21 business days, for us to process that request. That means linking or registering that representative to that entity itself. Okay. So now I'm going to give you a short demonstration on how you can go about doing one, the online query using the SARS online query system, or two, utilizing the booking system to book an appointment. Okay, so firstly, you're going to go on to www.sars.gov.za and you're going to go on to the landing page. So this is your home page. If you scroll down, okay, you will have an option where it says online services. Okay, so if you click on online services, you'll have a list of services that SARS has put on our digital channels. Due to COVID-19, we tried to restrict a lot of taxpayers coming into a SARS office. So we took a lot of the functionalities and put it online. Okay, so these functionalities can be utilized instead of actually contacting the call center or coming into an office by appointment. Okay, so for this digital channel, we're going to use the one that says register a representative. Now, if you click on register a representative, once you click on that, it takes you to the update as a registered representative page. Now, let's go through this. On the first line, you're going to have capacity. Now, this is for the representative taxpayer. Okay, depending on his or her capacity, they need to stipulate. Okay, so for example, if they're a public officer, we will select public officer. Now, if it's for a company, we've got under entity details. Now, the entity details is that of the organization or the entity that they represent. So that will be example, if it's a company, we'll select company. So what we're going to need to do is need to type in the company name. Okay, you need to put in the tax number, need to put the registration number, okay, of the company. The representative contact details would be that of the registered or the representative taxpayer. It's going to be their details, complete their details there, and you're going to put in the tax number and the ID number. Okay. Once you click on documents, it'll come up with a pop-up screen where you got to select the documents you need to upload and submit to SARS. Now, it's important that you make sure that all the documentations are uploaded at the same time. Once you complete that process, you click on the submit button, and your request is sent through to SARS, and then the 21-day process will start as of that time. Okay, so that's just a brief overview on how you go and use our SARS online system. Remember, this is what we would recommend for you. Then if you want to do a booking, okay, so if you go back onto the SARS website and you use the book an appointment option, it's the fourth option. Once you click on that, okay, then you have options. Now, these options will be depending on who's doing the booking. Example, if it's a normal taxpayer, it'll be an individual. If it's a representative, then they will either tick on that. Okay, but for example, if you're a tax practitioner, you will tick tax practitioner yes on that. Once it ticks up, it opens up further tables, and it'll ask you, what would you like to do? Make a new appointment or cancel appointment. So if you click on make a new appointment, then you would need to complete the details as follows. The representative information, this will be as of for the tax practitioner. The information where it says taxpayer information, okay, that will be that of the registered taxpayer or the representative taxpayer. Now that needs to be completed. Now remember, this is a virtual appointment. That means it'll be done either telephonically or via MS Teams. Okay, that will be a video appointment. But remember, if you are booking the appointment on behalf of your taxpayer, okay, the taxpayer has to be present at the time of the appointment for the authentication process to go through and for them to go ahead and give the authority to update and link themselves as a registered representative. Okay, so that needs to be done on the SARS e-booking system. And this is the process that needs to be followed for making an appointment. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation itself. Now, once that entire process has been done, they've done the appointment and they linked as the registered representative. If you go onto the e-filing system and you go onto the RAVO one, okay, you will have under the parties that representing me, you'll have the details of the registered representative, and they should have a checkbox. Okay, that checkbox means that the process is successfully done. Okay, once this is done, the tax practitioner can be able to activate the required tax types of their client itself. Remember, why we're saying this needs to be done is because when you click on the request for the tax type, this is the representative that will receive the SMS or the email to authorize the tax type transfer. So these are a list of common challenges that we're currently experiencing via our contact center, via our branch, right? One, the concluded letter. Okay, the concluded letter is based on the fact when you put through a request to update a registered representative and you receive a letter from SARS or communication from saying concluded. Okay, so generally when it comes to that, it'll either give you two options. It'll either tell you that we concluded the process, or you would receive communication whether it's been activated, accepted, or rejected itself. The other challenges that we also experience is the tax practitioners appointing themselves as registered representatives. Okay, this is where you want to try and fast track the process of activating the registered tax type on the e-filing profile, which you can only do so if you meet the previous criteria that we said. When can a tax practitioner appoint themselves as a registered representative? Okay. The other common challenges is the registered representative details are not updated with SARS, example, the email address or the cell phone number, or the registered representative and the entity details are not merged. So those things need to be done. Those are steps that I have advised to follow. If you follow those steps, you shouldn't have problems going forward. Also, on uploaded supporting documentations, we're either receiving incomplete information, documents, illegible documents, and sometimes out of date documents. So sometimes not all the documentations are uploaded, then SARS will then have to request for more documents. We send you a letter, then you upload the documents again. Every time you upload a next set of documents from the date of when we request for it, remember 21 days start again from that. So ensure that you upload all the correct documentations when required. When we say documents are illegible, sometimes we can't, we can see the person's selfie, but the ID is blurred out. So we can't, or maybe a copy of the documents are, we can't see the information. So it's important to make sure that the documents uploaded can be seen by a SARS processing agent. Okay. Out of date documents, for example, a proof of address. A proof of address, we would accept a proof of address that's not older than 3 months. So sometimes we would give us a proof of address that's 3 months, maybe 5 months old. Those are reasons why we would reject or request for more documentation as well. Okay. Lastly, we also see submissions of single queries by requested by using multiple channels. Okay. So what does this mean? You put through a request and the timeline has not gone through. Then you've gone back, you send through more communications, and what happens? Our inventory starts increasing. So it creates unnecessary inventory. And remember, the more stuff we have on our system, then the longer it'll take for us to get to your query itself. Okay. The following is what we picked up as common practice. This is where we reject a lot of registered representative requests. Okay. Remember, if you've got a tax practitioner profile, okay, and you go and click activate registered representative, you'll come up with this option where it says, one is the first button, it says activate registered representative, and the second option is activate tax practitioner. Now, most are using this option now. Now, if you use this option, when it takes you to the next screen, it'll come up with your details as a user of that e-filing profile. Okay. So ultimately what you're saying, you want to appoint yourself as a registered representative, then the documents that you are uploading is that of the actual representative. So what happens? There's information that are not corresponding. So we reject it. It actually increases and delays the actual registering of the process. So the only thing that I would advise to do is, specifically if you have a tax practitioner profile, don't use this option here. Use the two options we give you, the online system or book an appointment. Okay. Or the only option that you could utilize is the activate tax practitioner option, which will be much advisable to utilize, especially when you are using or activating yourself for a new client itself. Okay. So that actually concludes my presentation. I hope the information that I shared with you will utilize. I'm just going to hand it back to you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Martin, for that insightful presentation. We hope that the presentation answered more of your questions instead of creating more questions for you. Our focus will now shift to some of the Q&A session, and this is where you have sent in some queries to us. The panelists for this session will be Mr. Martin Naidu himself, and I already explained where Mr. Naidu worked before, and then also Mr. Riyad Mota. He started working for SARS in 2003 as well, also in the National Contact Centre, and he specialized in VAT. And over the years, He has gained extensive knowledge of various tax types and e-filing, and spent 10 years working with the taxpayer education team to create educational presentations as well as training materials. Riyadh is currently a compliance specialist in the tax practitioner and government division. He has a basic and advanced tax certificate and a higher diploma in South African and international tax. The other panelist will be Mr. Cyril Mvinjelwa, and he joined SARS in 2006, and he dedicated 9 years to taxpayer education in the Western Cape region during his 15-year tenure at the organization, and still counting. He holds a certificate in taxation from Rao University and is also a qualified tax technician, which he attained via the Credo College. Currently, Cyril is in charge of content development and design in the taxpayer education team. Welcome, gentlemen. So here are some of the questions that we have been emailed, and I'm going to be posing it to you one by one. Cyril, this question is for you. The question is, why does SARS issue registered representative registration process concluded emails, yet SARS have not updated e-file tax types, and tax types are still not available for tax type transfer or management?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the question, Program Director. If the update was done via our online query system, as well as via our branch booking system, it means that SARS will send a confirmation via email, confirmation of the case that has been created and the progress of the case. And then the second email that will be sent when the case is closed, we will send the email that says the case has been concluded. Now, when its case is saying concluded, doesn't necessarily mean that it has been approved or rejected. It only means that the case has been closed. And it goes on the same email, says correspondence on the outcome of this case will be issued in due course. If the taxpayer hasn't received the letter in the form of a letter, the outcome of the case, they can still go to the e-filing system to check if the tax types under action is available for them to activate or request the transfer. If not, that means then the case has been rejected. If they see the not available status, it means the case has been rejected. If they have been uploaded as a registered representative, it can mean that that registered does not have contact details. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Cyril, for that concise answer. So if I just understand correctly, just because you got the email that says a case has been concluded, it does not mean that it has been approved. So the representative needs to make sure that that case has been approved. The next question is also for yourself, Cyril. And the question is, why and what does it make that SARS wants a same-day selfie, a photo of a registered rep plus ID plus update note, especially when all other SARS selfie requirements are not the same day?
Thank you for the question, Program Director. This is for the security purposes, a part of the security measures. There are far-reaching consequences if we provide information to an incorrectly registered representative. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Cyril. There was a further question earlier on the email where it also says that taxpayers don't always have all the information at once, and it's therefore difficult to have it ready for submission. I would imagine in that case, instead of submitting the information in drips and drabs, have all the information and then submit to SARS, because your 21 days is going to start when we only have all the information. I assume that is correct. Thank you, Cyril. The next question I would like to answer myself. It says, kindly advise what documents you require to update the registered representative for a local municipality. I'm uncertain which documents you require in the place of a notice of incorporation. Now, what we require is a letter on the letterhead of the government institution. In this case, it will be the municipality, and this letter will come from the accounting officer that indicates the name and the address of the institution. We also require a letter from the bank with a bank stamp showing the banking details of the municipality. A power of attorney completed by the accounting officer indicating the details of the registered representative for the institution, but only if the details of the person visiting the branch differs from the details of the person recorded on the SARS system as a representative. And then certified copies of the valid ID document, driver's license, passport, temporary ID, with the original identification of the representative when visiting the branch. I know it's a mouthful, but you can consult our website as well. The next question, Martin, I would like to direct to you. It says, why is it such a tedious process to activate a registered representative? After submitting all documents SARS requires, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to get them activated. Surely turnaround time should be 21 days or less. Why so long to activate? And that is after 4 exclamation marks, Martin, so that gives you an idea of how serious the question is.
Okay, thank you, Program Director. Okay, so in such questions or cases, we require specific examples for us to investigate. The process generally does go faster when we have the required documentation submitted. As explained in my presentation, is that if you lack documentation and then you go ahead and you upload, then the 21 days restarts again. Okay, so if, for example, you've uploaded the documentations, it's past the 21 days, then you can actually go and use the escalation processes provided by SARS to escalate your query. This can maybe try and fast track the process of that case. Okay, thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Martin. I just also want to reference this question from Wayne Norville that also links to your previous answer, where it says, he says, when taking over a client from another accountant with no registered representative in place, 21 days is a very long time to wait for appointment before being able to do anything to assist the new client. In our experience, there is often an issue with the documentation or picture being taken, and then a further submission is required that again takes a further 21 days. Can the turnaround time possibly be shortened? I would imagine, Martin, that the answer to that question is really make sure that we have the correct information at hand, make sure that all the documentation, the selfies, is all legible. We can see who we are dealing with. And if that is all in order, the process will then go smoothly. Riyadh, the next question I would like to throw your way. It says, in a deceased estate, is it only the executor of the deceased who can be the registered representative, or may the agent of the executor be appointed as the registered representative? If it is only the executor, what is the situation if the executor is not a registered taxpayer or does not have a profile on e-filing?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Program Director. It should be noted that when it comes to a deceased estate, this normally goes through the master's office, and then the executor is then appointed as being the registered representative. The registered representative can then also appoint a tax practitioner with a special power of attorney to act on their behalf, and then to register them on e-filing and do submissions to them on e-filing as well. In the event that registered representative is not registered for income tax, there is a special arrangement that can be made at the branch office if they don't meet the requirements to be registered for income tax. So they can make an appointment, go and see a consultant, and they will then assist him in registering them as a registered representative. It's very important that they update the information, especially if they need to receive the OTP. So that's why it's important that they update the correct information on our system as well. And also not forgetting that if it is that you have an heir for that deceased estate who is possibly not registered for income tax at the time, they have to register in their personal capacity for income tax as well. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Riyadh. The next question is, I will also throw this question to you, Riyadh. It says the above mentioned close corporation was formally deregistered a number of years ago by the CIPC. There is an outstanding balance on the PAYE account, which we have submitted a compromise application for. However, according to SARS, there are VAT returns outstanding and the compromise application will not be considered until these returns are submitted. We cannot access the VAT profile on e-filing because there is no registered representative on the SARS system. However, as the company has been deregistered, there is no directors or registered representatives anymore. It's a bit of a mouthful. Riyadh?
Thank you very much for that. It's actually a bit concerning because who is then applying for the compromise? Because there needs to be a registered representative in place. And just because it has been deregistered by CIPC does not mean it's been automatically deregistered by SARS, because there might still be a tax liability. And remember that if you have outstanding returns automatically affects a compromise because we don't know what's the outcome of that outstanding returns. So it might be refunds or it might be a liability. So those returns needs to be submitted. They need to update the details at SARS and advise us who is a registered representative so that we can do the necessary for them and also submit the outstanding returns. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Riyadh. The next question is for Martin. It says supporting documents submitted to SARS to request activation of registered representative on 17 March with email successfully received. He then received an email on the 18th of March where it says your request to be updated as the registered representative in respect of a case number has been concluded by SARS. He then goes on to say that correspondence on the outcome of this case will be issued in due course. Request concluded on the 18th of March, but no further correspondence received from SARS and could not request tax types.
Okay, thank you, Program Director. Okay, in these type of cases, we'd have to look at each case specifically in order for us to get back to the taxpayer. Okay, this can be done by making getting hold of our contact center or branch office by appointment. But from troubleshooting these type of errors, it's important that the steps that are put into place to make sure that in most cases the merge is not done. And remember, when the registered representative is updating his or her details, on the same appointment, the merge can be done. So it's just one appointment for them to do so. So each case would be answered differently, but they can directly to the mailboxes for the PCCQ, and they can have a look and give proper feedback pertaining to this specific case. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. There is just two questions that I would also maybe like to answer. I see it's on the chat. Martin, it says, if the tax practitioner has been requested by the representative to update the representative with SARS, whose selfie should be uploaded?
That would be that of the representative. Now remember, the representative information that we would need to have on our system. Now remember, when updating or linking as a registered representative, it is done by the registered representative themselves, but they can work with accordance to the practitioner in the same environment. So advisable, they can book an appointment, either a telephonic appointment, use our online systems if they don't have facilities to go into a branch, or alternatively, they can do either a telephonic or a video appointment.
Thank you, Martin. So in a nutshell, it has to be the selfie of the registered representative and not that of the tax practitioner. Leonie Lutz also says the virtual appointment system does not work properly. I think, let me maybe answer that. Leonie, I think it does work, and I think that there are many practitioners that can attest to it working. I don't see any further queries or questions coming through. To those of you that have sent through questions via the email, please note that we will respond to those questions. We have your details and we will respond to those. As for the questions that is posed on the chat, as I indicated earlier on, we will collate these questions that are being asked on the chat, and we will post them as frequently asked questions on our website. So please, over the next few days, please keep an eye out for these questions and these FAQs on the SARS website. I think if I can maybe just summarize this evening session, please ensure that you do not register yourself, if you are a tax practitioner, as the registered representative. Secondly, please ensure that all of the documentation is in place and that it is ready to be sent to SARS in one instance. Thirdly, please ensure that we have clearly scanned copies of all of the necessary details. Please remember, if you don't submit these things and we see you have to send in additional documentation, the 21-day cycle starts all over again. Fourthly, do not use different service channels to submit the same request. All that is happening is you are building up the inventory that our colleagues in the back office needs to work through, which then prevents us from getting to the queries that does need urgent attention. Fifthly, please make use of the digital channels. These are self-help channels as far as possible. Make use of these channels. Try to avoid having to come in to the office at all cost. We don't want to discourage you from coming into the office, and we do want to see you, but we would like to maybe see you less often than what we do at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this evening's session. We will now ask Ms. Mvelazi to close the session for us.
Thank you, Program Director, and thank you to all the participants in this webinar this evening. We sincerely hope that you benefited from the session. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and we look forward to more such engagements where we can bring you further clarity on issues that matters to you and your clients. Please continue engaging with us through the regional structures, but also through your controlling bodies. Thank you for your attention and participation, and may you have a great evening further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mvelazi, for closing the session for us. Just as a last reminder, could we please request of you to complete the survey at the end of the session, and be reminded that a recording will be placed on the SARS YouTube channel. And if there are any questions that we have not answered, we will place those as FAQs on the SARS website within the next few days. And we certainly look forward to seeing you in future webinars. Good evening to you, and have a wonderful evening further. Good night.
Fellow South Africans, I'm addressing you.
All
this
your
evening
years of
for the
paying
national-
tax, you still wonder, why does it matter?
It is true that we are facing a great emergency.
It matters now more than ever. It matters to those who are exposed to harm to keep us away from it. The ones that leave behind all that they love. Your tax matters to them. Those who spend endless hours standing on their feet to care for others. It matters to those who are always at the heart of any crisis and our future generations. It matters to those who put so much love into giving selflessly to each and every family living on the breadline. It matters to all of us. To all taxpayers, pay your fair share. Do it for your nation. Your tax matters.
Thanks, Amanda.
Well done. Wow. The thank yous. Did you all see the thank yous? Did you see the